Hey everyone, it's VT Matty. The VOD that you're watching here is edited from the stream over at twitch.tv/voltaicaim. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, which is edited down to show you the most informative and detailed VOD reviews from the latest stream. Thank you for watching. Matty, Pasu advance, pushing for GM. Alright, so this is more... Wow, this is a smooth VOD. Wow. I don't know if this is showing up on stream, but this is silky smooth FPS VOD. This looks like it was recorded in 240 frames. Fire, dude. Okay, let's look at that neutral position. Let's have this be like a Pasu breakdown sort of VOD. Alright. This angle of the webcam kind of messes things up. I'm not a fan of the neutral position as a radial deviation towards the right. I'm not too much of a fan of that. It's not a bad deviation. You generally want to remain neutral, especially on a scenario like this where later in the run you're going to be pushed into weird positions on the map, and that's going to bring you every kind of place on the mouse pad that a bad neutral position will make it harder for you to reach. Let's see how you approach this, though. Alright, so you still kind of suffer from that hesitation problem, where it's like you're setting up for a leading shot, but you're second guessing yourself, right? Don't second guess yourself. And instead, like, if it's taking a while, like, don't lead far away from the target. For example, if this target's going this way, you don't want to lead out here and wait. Especially on this scenario where the targets are kind of, you know, they kind of juke you. They play very deceptively. Especially with depth. Some of these targets will go into the screen and juke you like that. So, for this target, if we were to consider that axis. The z-axis, the x-axis, the y-axis. Sometimes the target will confuse you. You perceive this as going to the right and up. But this could actually take longer for you to read and longer for the target to actually reach your crosshair if you're leading out here, if this target is traversing the z-axis away from you. So this is away from you into the screen. And this is towards the back wall. So if this target is actually moving towards the back wall, you're going to perceive it as moving slower, but also getting smaller, slightly smaller. And what this means is, if you're leading far out, it's going to take longer for this target to reach your crosshair, perceptively. And that means also, like, lead closer to the target, the closer position, but also just close that distance. If you notice that happening to you and you're out here, perform a microcorrection. Like, barely even a microcorrection, just a tiny, tiny fingertip movement to close the distance between the target and hit it further. And hit it closer, so that you don't have to wait for it to cross. That's what I'm seeing with a lot of Pasu VODs. It's just like, you're so hesitant. Right? You don't really have like a set rhythm that you're trying to play towards. You're waiting for these targets and just like, you're almost withholding the microcorrection.
Oh shit.
So in my opinion, the best thing that would help you is if you alleviate this fear of low accuracy. That's one of the good things about reload training and reload scenarios, is that you don't really have to play for fear of missing singular shots. You have to play for fear of missing 3 in a row, right? And usually after a reload, you reset. So honestly, my recommendation for you is Pasu goated. What is it? Isn't it Pasu reload goated? Yeah, Pasu reload goated. I should not be blanking on the name exactly. Play this, it's reload. You can also play Raspberry or Rasp Pasu versions. You can find one wall 4 targets Raspberry, one wall 5 targets Pasu raspberry, things like that. That would help you here, because I think you're playing too much for the accuracy change, and I don't know, it's too much of a hindrance to you. You're not really playing to the proper speed, and you're too afraid of taking risks with micro corrections. And speaking of micro corrections, if you're trying to improve your micro accuracy, and that's where you're going to be losing most of your points if your micros suffer, you should be playing you play 1 wall 3 targets, Pasu, Perfected, I think it's called. Goated. There should be a scenario. If you search 1 wall 3 targets Pasu, just look for that. There's also 1 wall 2 targets Pasu Perfected, which is actually on a different map. And this scenario has wider flicks, but it puts pressure on you to actually close that error distance with a micro correction and forces you to focus on the precision of your shot. So try those scenarios, and don't worry so much about accuracy when you're playing Pasu Season 5. Mostly just try to develop a rhythm and try to keep up like a safe pacing where you're not just going to drop it with high tension. Alright, so an important point that I really want to make with static clicking, especially with high density static clicking where there's a lot of targets on your screen, so I'm not talking about 1 wall 2 targets, I'm not even talking about 1 wall 4. The idea here is that you have this extremely nice burst of hits at the start. You're holding, what, like 98% accuracy, you've only missed one shot for the first 30 seconds of your run, and you're pacing near Celestial. But I wanna explain to you like where you missed and why this sort of dropped. Okay, right here. So take a look. I don't know. Yeah, this is probably blocking it. Take a look at how your mouse is positioned here. Take a look at your pivot and how you missed this target right here. So you took a flick. You're so far radially deviated. So that means your mouse is tilted towards your torso, towards the left, right? You're so far to the left here. And let's see how you missed this target. This was a target from up here. A target from directly up here. This is where the target you're coming from was. It's asking you were asking yourself to go further down to the left. How much more can you go here? How much more can you possibly even go to perform this flick properly with the proper amount of space? Right? And this is unavoidable almost. You're going, unless you have like extremely perfect pathing, like cartoon level pathing, where you're being consciously like aware of your mouse positioning on the pad, and you're going to choose targets to get yourself out of weird positions. My mousepad goes down a bit further. Your mousepad could get down a bit further, but just looking at how your hand is tilted right now and how it's positioned, I can tell that that's going to lead to some inconsistency. Like, God forbid you went down here, for example. That would be very difficult for you. And especially like, yeah, even at the start, you started with like kind of a weird neutral position, sort of tilted to the left. And then by here, you pathed in a very weird way. Like, see, you're down here for this target. Imagine if there was a target down here, you just functionally, you cannot go for that. But let's see where you missed again. Because I'm driving home a point here, and it's not that you need to worry like it's not that it's specifically a pathing issue or solved with better pathing. You missed it here, and you missed it here. So this is pace modulation. Pace modulation. And I believe Minigod talked about this last time. So he discussed having sort of a mode or several modes of play throughout your run that you can swap between. So let's just say that you're going to have like 2 modes. Obviously, like he probably has more than 2 modes. You have a safe mode where you're generally playing for accuracy, and then you have your burst slash like risky mode, and you're generally playing for speed. This is accuracy, this is speed. So for the first 30 seconds or so, I would say you were playing in a very high speed mode, and you were taking, you know, necessary risks, and it was paying off for you, right? This was one of your first misses throughout the run. You stuck with 99% accuracy. The whole idea with this is that you need to find a position during the run where you can safely transition into like a safe mode. And this would have been that point, I think, or slightly before this would have been that point. And knowing when to do this takes looking at where your mouse is positioned, thinking about how much tension you've used so far, and this has to be done on the fly, and I know that's what makes it difficult to look at how much tension you've been using, how much tension you have left to use, and also to look at where you are on the map relative to your mousepad positioning. So I would have gone into safe mode, or risk averse mode, static clicking, like a few seconds ago, because as you play static, and I'm assuming that you're at this level where you develop almost a sense of, you know, when you're doing well. But since you had that extreme burst in speed and tension at the start, I'm assuming, and you're doing so well, like you can't possibly keep that up throughout the entirety of the run. You're going to need to make some decisions to your approach that will allow you to play safer, right? And then as we look at through the rest of the run, you start making mistakes by this point. And you haven't even like taken the pathing solution of getting yourself out of that bottom left side. Yeah. And then by that point, you're kind of just trying to finish out the run with the best hits possible. My advice to you is probably to play something like what I'm playing right now on Aim Labs. The scenario that I just played at the start of the stream is called Wide Wall 2 Targets. It's 50% smaller. You could play that. And the reason why I'm recommending that right now is because you can practice with the pathing on here. So this is with pathing practice. Even better pathing practice, I'm imagining probably, let me see. You could play Multi-Click from Voltaic Season 4. That's more pathing practice. And, like, knowing on a horizontal level. So the Wide Wall 5 Targets Season 5 is more vertical in terms of the angles that you're dealing with. Multi-Click is more horizontal, so you're going to be pathing almost like this. And so, for example, if your mouse is heavily radially deviated like this, and you're far to the left right here, you can try to do a reset by taking targets all the way to the right over here and sweeping far to the right of the map and taking targets over here. That's a good one. And in terms of pace modulation, there is a scenario CA 6-shot, which is good practice for like managing that burst, because one of the main strengths of this is that targets are relatively consistent in terms of where they spawn. They're not so scattered out, and then it's not so varied like in Well 5 targets or in other static scenarios like Well 6 targets. And there's kind of opportunities for clustering, but you have to like be set up properly for them. And if you're not set up properly for them, then you're obviously going to be playing safe. And you're obviously going to be playing for accuracy instead of trying to go for a weird burst. That's the map is not letting you to. Okay, so that was a long one. Because I wanted to rehash what Minigod was kind of saying in the last video, or the last stream, because it was really important. If you haven't checked it out already, you could go to my previous video of last month's VOD review stream to check that out. But also it's like, this is a good example of like how that will affect your run. 55 CM, I have almost no idea what I'm doing here as I haven't played any bounce scenario and looking for tips. Okay. So I've played a ton of bounce, pretty much known for my popcorn score. This scenario, bounce shot. Bounce shot season 4. This is kind of a combination of B180 and popcorn. Or at least that's how you want to play it. It leans more towards B180 than popcorn, whereas season 5's leans more towards popcorn. But you get the idea of that you want to be prioritizing like speed, but you also want to be playing safe. From the start of this VOD, I could tell like that you don't play much bounce. What you're constantly doing, and this right here is a perfect example. So this target came up, and it reached its apex around like here. What you're doing is you are chasing. You're performing trailing micros like behind the target, and that's like even in normal dynamic scenarios, that's the exact opposite of what you kind of want to be doing. And you're playing a very risky playstyle compared to like what you could be doing. And that is playing out here, positioning yourself for a leading shot, basically. And that's like the popcorn approach. So you're playing this for a lot of speed. You're taking micros very aggressively. This is what I would say here is you're taking aggressive micros. Some of these things here kind of tried to lead. Yeah, you tried to lead here, but it's not giving you much luck. Right? Never, in bounce, just as a general rule, you really don't ever want to be trailing your micro, following a target as it descends, okay? So when the target is... Let me see if this is the one that I'm pointing out here. Yeah, right here. You never want to follow a target as it descends. You want to picture your crosshair as a net. Your crosshair is a net, and you're positioning it beneath the target. Always beneath the target in bounce. Because the descent, the target descent is the most predictable. This is the most readable portion, and this is like, you can see where it's going to go. This is where it becomes kind of a linear scenario. So that's where you always want to be positioning your crosshair placement. And that's the most consistent way that you can get a lot of farm here. And that's the most consistent way that you can chain together hits, because there's going to be a lot of targets that are falling in from the sides of your field of view that you can set up just easy leading shots for, picturing your crosshair as a net. Whereas if you were dealing with several targets that are falling from the sides of your POV, you're going to hit points where you're just going to have to track each one down or just follow each one down, and it's going to be so inconsistent and risky. And yeah, it's generally, like, it's okay to take, for example, if the target is ascending, it's okay to take a micro that, like, flicks upwards like that. You're doing that nicely. That's how you usually get a nice burst of hits at the beginning of a bounce scenario because they're all ascending. But try to mix in like more reads of the arc. You're not properly reading the arc or taking advantage of what you can see happening. These arcs are very consistent. So yeah, I could tell that you're a very good dynamic player. You're probably really good at Pasu with like how sharp your micros can be. But in bounce, you're just not taking advantage of the patterns. Play Popcorn. Popcorn Voltaic is the main one that I want you to play. Yeah, just Popcorn Voltaic. If you find that to be challenging, there's Popcorn, I think MV Advanced, and this stands for Matty Viscos. We collabed on Popcorn MV Advanced, put our ideas together to make a nice popcorn scenario that was more forgiving. Definitely play that. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, thank you guys for showing up, and we'll be back next month. If you want to find one of your VODs that hasn't been picked out for the YouTube channel, for my YouTube channel, you can go to twitch.tv/VoltaicAim, and it should be hosted there. I'm pretty sure that we store the VODs. Yeah, so that way you don't have to miss it. Okay,